Terry. Is Valerie here? Good evening. I have with me Dr. Joe Cantor, who is the Assistant State Health Officer for Region 1 Medical Director for the state. Dr. Jerry Satanovich is here, Sheriff Joe Lapinto, Steve Lachute, who is our Chief Operating Officer, Valerie Brulin, who is our Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Joe Valiente, who is our Director of Emergency Management. Where's Joe? Okay. Addie Emsice is our Chief Administrative Assistant, Councilman Scott Walker, and Superintendent Dr. Cade Brumley from our school system. So with that, as of this moment, we have 6 presumptive positive cases in the greater New Orleans area. And those tests are currently on their way to CDC or being tested at CDC at this time. We've spent much of yesterday and today looking at future programming in Jefferson Parish. And in doing so, we are trying to strike a balance between maintaining our quality of life and living our lives, but also recognizing and acknowledging that the virus is present in our community and that we must take the necessary precautions to minimize this spread. Our main mission is to slow the spread. The medical community informs that the most crucial time to minimize the infection rate is to curb it early on. Please know that this is an ever-changing situation, and what I'm telling you today will change as we continue to get more information. And in speaking with members of our medical community, we also have an expectation that the presumptive positive counts will rise as testing becomes more available in the days ahead. In speaking with the governor's office, their Department of Health believe that 80 to 85% of the cases are mild and essentially look like the flu, but 15 to 20% of the cases are quite severe. Experience with this virus has shown that the elderly and those with underlying health conditions are at the greatest risk of suffering the severe consequences of this virus. They don't have a higher chance of contracting the virus, but if they do get the virus, they have a much greater chance of having a severe and very serious case. We have also been informed that for every 1 person that contacts this virus, it can spread to 2 to 3 people. With those facts, our policy as of today will be to suspend all non-essential senior programming of a social nature. We have programming in various departments in our parish. We are an older parish by comparison in this region. Certainly, if you look at the average of our parish across the country, we are considered an older parish. Senior centers operated by our Jefferson Council on Aging and supported by our Citizens Affairs departments have programs. The Golden Age groups operated by our recreation departments have programs. Our RSVP, our Retired Senior Volunteer programs, operated by our JeffCap department, also run programs. So again, all of those programs of a social nature will be suspended until further notice. This does not include essential senior services, such as the Meals on Wheels, medical transportation services. We are certainly fielding a lot of questions recently about the upcoming St. Patrick's Day festivities, the Irish Italian Day festivities. So given that these events are extremely high density, that include thousands of spectators throughout the parade route, moving forward with these parades does not coincide with our efforts to minimize this spread. Therefore, those upcoming parades are canceled, and certainly, and we hope, discussions for having those parades at a later time can be revisited. Again, we're trying to strike the right balance of continuity of our government operations and our daily lives, but yet taking the proper precautions to minimize the spread as it sets foot in our community. And again, it's suspending the social events that include our most vulnerable populations, the elderly, and then doing those things to minimize the number of people infected by looking at the large events, the dense crowds, and considering those factors. Jefferson Parish does not have a public health department. So in Jefferson Parish, we're working very closely with the governor's office of the Louisiana Department of Health, and we're in contact with the local healthcare providers in our community. I have personally had very lengthy conversations with doctors at all of our surrounding major medical institutions, doctors who live here, Their families reside here. I have been on the phone with them, very much so last night and throughout the day. Want to reiterate the importance of engaging in everyday preventive action to minimize the spread of COVID-19. You're staying at home if you're sick is very key to minimizing the spread of this virus. Covering your cough, washing your hands frequently, not touching your face, no close contact, and certainly disinfecting frequently touched surfaces. If you believe you may have the virus, the CDC is recommending that you call ahead to your doctor to help your doctor's office take the steps necessary to protect their staff as well as the other patients in the waiting room. And we will continue to provide updates so citizens can stay informed by paying attention to factual information. We encourage you to check the CDC website, the Louisiana Department of Health website, and to text JPALERT to 888-777. And I can take questions, and certainly Dr. Cantor is here from the state if you have any questions with this regard.
Are there any other parades besides the one this weekend that are canceled, or just this one so far?
So for today, we're just suspending all of those crowd activities, and as I said, that it will change over time, but we have scheduled the St. Patrick's Day Parade this weekend was permitted by Jefferson Parish. The following weekend was the Irish Italian Parade. I know the city of Gretna has a parade after that, but of course that's toward the end of March, and I don't know if they'll be making any decisions about that, but that would fall under the city of Gretna.
So how much of an economic impact do you expect this to serve?
Well, the two parades that I'm talking about, and of course the third one is a new parade. They're beloved parades. They're very long history in our community. They're very much part of our culture, and I think that's why it's a big deal. Certainly it's going to have an economic impact, but the health impact is what I have to prioritize. So,
how many what sort of testing is available currently in Jefferson Parish?
And that changes, and I'm going to refer that to Dr. Cantor for testing, please.
Sure. Thanks for that question. But before I get to that, I just want to mention, I think, in my own opinion, these are very reasonable restrictions that Madam President just made. I think they're in line with best practices of what you're seeing across the country, and they're in line with what the facts on the ground are right now. So we have 6 presumptive positive cases that are in the process of being confirmed by the CDC, and we have a number of tests pending. So we have every reason to expect that there'll be more positives in the coming days. I think this is a reasonable move. To your question, there currently is a main pathway for testing, and that is through the state public health lab in Baton Rouge. Very quickly, there is alternative pathways coming online through commercial labs like Quest and LabCorp. Those are in the process of being stood up, and that's a very quickly moving process, and that process will be outside of and parallel to the state's lab in Baton Rouge. It'll be directly from either a hospital or a clinic to those lab facilities, but that process is being stood up very, very quickly.
When it comes to education, we've seen some universities in Orleans Parish making some changes. What about the school system or in general within Jefferson Parish?
Mm-hmm.
So we feel like we've taken a lead with the entire state on trying to put out guidance on this particular issue. We have increased sanitation efforts in our schools. We've done our best to inform students on hand washing, coughing into a tissue or the elbow. All of our employees are undergoing or have undergone additional training on illness prevention. We have limited large-scale assemblies on our campuses, and we've eliminated, to all degree possible, in-state and local field trips of our students, because we can't control the environment outside of our schools, but we can to some degree control that inside of our schools. We also eliminated face-to-face parent-teacher conferences that were scheduled for next Monday, and we moved those to online or via email or by telephone. Our goal is to keep our schools open, and we think by taking these measures that we've put in place and listening to health experts, we have the greater chance of being able to do that. And so that information is relative to our 82 public schools. Obviously in Jefferson Parish there are a number of private schools as well.
Do we know how many people within Jefferson Parish have been tested so far? How much money on hand does the parish have to deal with the coronavirus, and how much do you expect to spend?
Well, certainly we've set up the account numbers, and, this is an event that, perhaps can be reimbursable, but that's not our concern now. But we are making those preparations, and we're doing a lot of things. As an employer, we're also an employer of several thousand people. So we're looking at those things that employers should be looking at in the event that this continues. If you have excessive absences, are you training people to be able to take over? Are you flex timing? Are you, obtaining other office space? So those things are absolutely going on, and we've been doing that since last week. Yes.
You mentioned earlier that you're trying to strike a balance between not interrupting daily lives, but being aware of the inevitable if there is a threat here. How do you strike that balance in making these decisions moving forward?
It's crucial that our community moves on. Certainly in government, we have to provide our critical services. We're going to have additional problems if we don't do that. I need to make sure the roads, are repaired. I need to make sure the water's running. We have drainage. There's going to be rain. So for me, as an employer, I want to make sure that we don't miss a beat on that. And if, in fact, we might have more excessive absences because of this. And again, as I said earlier, I'm not personally concerned for myself. Everything I've read and everything that I've spoken to doctors about, statistically, if I get it, it will be a mild case. In fact, that was, and I don't want to speak on a medical term, but it's been repeated time and time again, that's why this transmission is feared to be very widespread, because people who have it feel well enough and are still going to work and are still out in the community. So certainly that is a change I'll make in my life, and if I don't feel well, I will stay home, which maybe, a couple months ago I would have gone to work. So, and again, I'm told that is the single most, the best way to prevent the spread is people who are sick to stay home. So we're encouraging that with our employees, and I encourage all employers to push that to their staffs as well.
Any restrictions on soccer activities? Because Jefferson and Orleans have a couple amateur soccer leagues, and they play on weekends. Any
Yes.
restriction or?
The sporting events right now are on. We're looking at, when we have to develop this, we're trying to, again, I said, the most vulnerable population is the events that we're going to curtail. And the parade, strictly because of the sheer density. That parade in particular, people stand very, very close together. I mean, I was in that parade last year, and it is a very, very popular parade throughout the route. So you don't have that spread that you would have on a soccer field. The personal contact is a much smaller distance on a parade route. So, yes.
Is the Senior Expo part of the social?
Unfortunately, the Senior Expo will have to be canceled, and I know it's not for a little bit, but there are resources that we don't want to expend if we are going to cancel that event, so we're canceling that event today. And again, we are looking at, I should say postponing. We want to revisit all of this at a later time.
So is there a chance with these parades, for example, the one that was Sunday, that it could, is it canceled or is it postponed?
No, it's canceled if later in the year the organizers would like to have a parade that, is not on the day, near St. Patrick's Day. We certainly would invite that in those conversations. I hope will happen later on. Well, yes.
Just one last question. I asked Mayor Cantrell about this yesterday, and if you could do the same. We've been doing our best to report facts and not spread fear. Is there anything that you can say, just to, somebody's watching this at home and maybe going, oh gosh, is there anything that you can say to just,
It is about pushing out factual information. In fact, all of the information I get, I'm referring directly to what the state's putting out. Do not get your information off of social media. I have my phone blowing up all day with friends. Did this happen? Did this happen? It's like, no. So it is critical at this time especially to have accurate information being reported throughout the community by everyone.
With
Yes.
the school sports, is there any changes that could happen with that? I know there's
I'm going to
some
let
changes.
Dr.
What could be happening there, or is there anything expected to change?
So we're basically out of indoor sports where the density would be more of an issue. So we're out into baseball and softball at this point. So all of our school sports that are outdoor activities are still ongoing.
So no changes. Is there anything in season or anything that normally is inside that could change? Or?
No, at this point, we have not made any restrictions to athletic events because for the majority of those events, they're outdoor events.
Yes.
Yeah, this region being one that's particularly heavy with service workers, I know the city of New Orleans was encouraging employers to look at their leave policies, sick leave, that kind of thing. Is that something that you would like to encourage Jefferson Parish people? Like, do you have anything you'd like to say about sick leave policies in the parish?
We are looking at that with our employees. You know, we are fortunate that we give sick leave to our employees, so they have that benefit available to them. And again, we're encouraging people to use that sick leave if they're sick. If someone is out of sick leave, we're going to handle that right now on a case-by-case basis. But I don't want that that to be an issue, and again, we're going to handle that on a case-by-case basis.
What about other employers in the region?
Well, I mean, that's what the other employers are going to, I think they need to be in that process now of reviewing that, you know. Yes, that's what everybody should be doing right now. Yes.
And just to make sure I have it correct, both parades have been canceled, the Irish Italian and Mother Day.
Yes, and they're permitted events. Now, again, this is, what I'm speaking about today is the events that Jefferson Parish permits. Of course, all other gatherings that, you know, are not permitted by the parish, I suggest the CDC has excellent materials on different events and workplace and school and all kind of guidelines, so I really suggest people look to that if they need to make their decisions. Okay. Thank you very much.